The start point was the idea of, a virtual museum for Selby. What could that be? What could it do? The problem with a virtual museum is it kind of sounds like it's not quite as good as a museum, or we couldn't have something as good as a museum, but we wanted to think, well, maybe actually doing it differently could be doing it better. Maybe we could actually reach people that we couldn't otherwise reach, and achieve things that couldn't otherwise be done. And Selby, as we've discovered, has got a lot of history, a lot of stories hidden away, lots of people waiting to tell them. A large archive full of all sorts of interesting things in the library as one place, and the museum group's got some fantastic things. All that's waiting to happen is to realise it and to get it out there, get it shared among people. So we thought we'd start with the idea of a traditional historical website. When people are normally doing a website that's historical, this is the sort of structure that they use. This is sort of how an expert would do it in some ways. It's the sort of historian's view of the world, where you start with Selby, you start from the town's perspective, and then you order it by themes, so you're talking about industry, religion, and that's actually the structure. So when you go to the website, that's actually the menu and the buttons, that's how you navigate through the website. The problem with that system is that firstly it's very top-down. It tells everything from the central point of view, from the town's view. So it's the sort of website where you're likely to hear an awful lot about the Abbey, but not an awful lot about the sorts of people who lived in Selby. Perhaps they lived on the outskirts of Selby. And that's really where we wanted to go, is to change perspective, make something that's very open. So change the question a little bit. What if a town could have a memory? Is a really much more exciting idea. Is that, how would it be? How would it grow? It would always change over time. Some of you might actually recognise that road. It's Armory Road. What we've done is developed a prototype. It's not completely working, it's certainly not completely perfect, but it is a working prototype. So the idea is that instead of arriving and looking at lots of history, the sort of things that might interest a historian but might not necessarily interest other people, it's actually an interface. It's a map of Selby, and you can pan around very easily and intuitively. You don't need to know much about using computers. There's the Abbey. And you can zoom right in as well. And most importantly, of course, you can take the town and you can take it back through time. So let's flip back to 1790, and we can see a much smaller Selby. And so one of the first things that's quite interesting to do is simply going back. And this is one of the areas where it might interest people who aren't necessarily just people who are interested in history. It interests everyone who lives in Selby, because they'll go back and the first thing they'll do is go, ooh, where's my house? So if we go to the period of war, and we go to where we are now, we should be able to find a photo of this place flooded, and that's the Ritz Cinema as it was then. I hope we've got this right. Please give it. So what we've done, once you've got onto this map, and you can move around it in time and in space, and it doesn't discriminate between the centre and the outskirts, so the stories can come from anywhere. It's completely open, and we've only got a few dots on here, but there could be many, many more dots of the sort of thing you can go in. And what we've actually discovered is you can get some really fantastic, quirky things. So to show you some of my personal favourites, this is in 1990, is the launch of the Forth Bridge. There it is, going into the river.
Solid roads.
An absolutely incredible occasion was in, what was it? It's the beginning of the century. It was following the siege of King. At the cross, they placed an effigy of General Kruger on the top of the cross. Now, those driving past that place today might not know that that happened, but what we've tried to do is make an interface where people, all they have to do is know where to look, and they can drill back as if they were using a time machine. Now, the problem of this sort of objective interface is that perhaps what you lose out on is some of those themes, the ability to use it as an exhaustive research device. It's not just a bit of fun.
This is something that was brought up when we discussed it with the Saratoga subgroup. Somebody said, what if I just want to know about the floods themselves?
Yeah.
I don't know what time, I just want to know generally about the floods.
So what we've done down here is actually arrange the ability to sort through the various bits of content by theme. So if I go to, well, we can stay in this here and we can click on religion. We've got the Abbey Fire. Oh no, we haven't got the Abbey Fire. We would have the Abbey Fire. And likewise, if we go around here and I click on environment, we'll get quite a lot of dots because we know, or we would know, that there were floods. It's having trouble finding some of these bits of file. But of course, the way we're using this isn't actually online. It is actually at this moment online, but because we don't have connection with the internet, this is just coming off our computer. But to handle this problem of it being a bit dry, we've also put some other ideas forward. For example, you might ask the website to tell you a story. So all you have to do is go on 5 minutes, click tell me a story, and it'll tell you something interesting you didn't know. And also, something that we learned throughout the course of the project was the fact that actually there's a lot of these photos which don't know a lot about them, but there's an awful lot of people in Selby who do. And so this function here is the mysteries function. And this is all the strange photographs and strange bits of information that we don't know something about. And it might be quite fun for the user of the site as a sort of hobby, rather like doing a crossword, to take one on and do a bit of detective work to see if they can solve the mystery themselves. I really like that because in the current day people tend to consume and watch TV in quite a passive way, and I rather like the idea that this could be something, an active place to share and contribute and to record the history of now, not just look at the history of then. And so here's some interesting, these are 2 horses that got struck by lightning in 1913. I've got no idea what this is. Jack's mouse. Rather thought it might be some answers. This is quite an interesting one. This is Ron Molly Furnace, I think. Closed down. We don't know where the shop was. You probably do.
Just across the road.
Is it just there?
Yeah. On the corner.
That was one of the things.
Lonely.
So that's the important thing about this website is it's not finished. So the most important thing is we've tried to make it really open, flexible. It's open to ideas, but what it really needs is development and taking forward. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So you can take it.
I think you've just illustrated exactly what the reaction we wanted to have. She said, "Oh yes, I remember that. Oh, I knew about that." And throughout the project, we've had a number of discussions with different people, and we're just going to very quickly flick through that just so you can see who we've talked to and what they thought of. Here we are talking to you, Michael, about the Irish Ideas project, so we spent too long on that one. And we did have 2 very, very useful discussions with the school children at Selby High, who actually, some of them who were here earlier, the same ones. We've met with people like Laura Hughes, who told us all about his life on the river, and we've recorded that. And here we are meeting with some of the school kids, and we also met with the primary school children out in Cawood, and they told us all about Cawood Castle and Humpty Dumpty. Loads and loads of enthusiasm from loads of different age groups. Here we are.
We've actually done quite a few interviews now, haven't we?
Yeah, and we've been recording these, so we've now got a video tour of the Abbey for people to watch. And that.
One of the important things about the interface that I didn't mention was the fact that it's not just photographs and documents. We've also made it possible, we can't show you now because we're not online, but it's possible to have videos. So a lot of these testimonies and interviews are actually recorded either as videos or audio, so they'll be just as easy to find as photographs.
And that's a really big appeal for young people because they don't necessarily, they like seeing pictures and reading text, but they also like seeing videos. So here they are trying out the website and
telling us what didn't work about it.
Yeah, and they work at the critics. And they did find even more bugs than we have trade just now. So that's been really fun, and they have been really, they've even commented, we've been doing an online diary of what we've been working on, and they've actually even commented on that, so they've been very helpful and very enthusiastic.